What is going on, guys? Monkey here. Today I am back from my short little holiday that I had to London, and this is what this video is going to be about. I used to do these style commentaries a while back where I just used to put gameplay in the background and I literally just spoke over them, did a commentary, and they seem to go down pretty well. People seem to like them, sort of not watch the video but just listen to me in the background, so I'm hoping that's how this video is going to come across. But this is not going to be about FIFA, it's just going to be a complete off topic, and as I said, it's going to be about my trip to London. Now, you may have, if you follow me on Twitter or not, that's irrelevant, but you may have seen that I was announcing that I was going to the Olympics. I was lucky enough to get tickets, and I'll get into that again a little bit, but yeah, I went down to London. I had 2 tickets, sort of 2 events tickets, one for the athletics and one for the football, and I was extremely lucky to get the tickets, and yeah, I wasn't too excited about going, but in like the past, I don't know, week or so before the actual event, I was getting quite excited for it because it was a once in a lifetime thing. In my lifetime, London will not be hosting the Olympics again. It's extremely unlikely, and if it does, it will probably be to the point where I am too old to go to the Olympics, probably, as I guess. So it was a once in a lifetime thing for me. I may not even go to another Olympic Games because they may be too far afield. So when it was announced back 7 years ago, I believe it was 6 years ago, I was actually on holiday in Spain, and my dad said we're gonna go to those Olympics no matter how much you have to pay. And luckily, like I said, we got tickets for it. So this is probably going to be a 2-part video. This is going to be about my Olympic experience over the 2 days that I was there for. I was there for about 4, but the 2 days I was actually at the Olympics for, and it will be split up from the first day to the second day, so both events. So the first event I went to was the athletics, and this was the luckiest part. I was extremely lucky to get tickets to the athletics. I know there's an 80,000 seat stadium, but still, if you imagine how many people applied for those tickets, I know it's just one day out of the 15 days or whatever the Olympics are on. But I was lucky enough to get them in the Olympic Stadium athletics. So 80,000, it was a sellout on every single day, and I was one of them. And we weren't too sure what to expect, to be perfectly honest. My dad was really excited. I wasn't too excited. My mum wasn't too excited either because I went with my family, and it was something we weren't sure what it was going to be like. I was worried that it was going to be really busy. I was worried that it was going to take so long to get everywhere, and it was just going to be so crammed in, and we'd have rubbish seats because to be perfectly honest, we didn't pay a hell of a lot for our seats. You may think the Olympics you'll pay millions, or not millions, but thousands of pounds just to go. We actually got our, I'm not going to say how much, but we actually got our tickets relatively cheap. So we were lucky in that respect. But when we got to the Olympic Park, we actually travelled down on a Tuesday, and the tickets to the athletics were on the Wednesday. So we stayed overnight somewhere in London on the Tuesday night, and on the Wednesday we left at like 7 AM in the morning. No, it was earlier. It was like 6 AM in the morning. We were staying in London, caught the tube across to Stratford, which is where the Olympic Park is, and we were met by the queue, or the huge amount of people, but everyone seemed to be happy, even the volunteers. I know they weren't getting paid for it, they were volunteers, and I think they were probably trained to be happy, but they were all really like nice and happy, and the atmosphere was amazing. There was not like one bad word said between people. There was only one time at the weekend, in the whole weekend, that I got to experience something that wasn't too great. But everybody was being nice, even at the entrance there. Even though we had like the security checks and whatever, people were happy to do that because even the army were in there, and they were being nice to. They weren't being intrusive or anything like that. It was just like security checks, but it wasn't like at the airport. It was friendly and it was a better atmosphere. So we got into the Olympic Park, and the first thing you see is the Orbit statue and the Olympic Stadium, the 80,000 seat stadium, and it is absolutely huge. When you first see it, you don't expect the size of it to be as big as it was. The stadium's huge purely because, well, it's like you imagine 80,000 football seats, 80,000 seater football stadium. There we go. But it was bigger than that purely because it had like the track and the field. It wasn't just the football pitch in the middle, and it was in its own sort of place in the Olympic Park, so it looked bigger than that. And then the Olympic Park was amazing as well. I didn't get to explore that till later on after the athletics, but it was huge. You couldn't see like the end of the park because it was that big, and that I didn't expect it to be that big. I knew it'd be big, but not that big. And the amount of people, like if you were to just look above the crowd, so if you got onto the crest of a hill, all you could see was a sea of heads sort of bobbing up and down of people walking, because there was so many people in there. And it was crowded, but I have to say it was not busy to the point where you were queuing for ages for everything. So when we got in there, went to McDonald's, funnily enough, for a McDonald's breakfast. And that was right. That was right. Yeah, I went for a McDonald's breakfast that morning, and in the Olympic Park. And I expected to queue for around 2 hours to get a McDonald's breakfast. This is at 8 o'clock in the morning, and we queued 15 minutes. And the queue was long, like, because that's what you expect the queue to be long. But it was well managed, and we were in 15 minutes. We were sat down eating. There was enough tables for pretty much everybody. There was still a few people milling around trying to get a table, but we managed to get one. And yeah, like I said, it was managed really well. And after that, we went into the Olympic Stadium. And now this is where like a little story begins. We had tickets. I can't remember what they were. I think they were row 75, which we weren't sure, because it's a big stadium, we weren't sure how far back that was. No, they were row 74, that was it. So we got into the stadium, and it was absolutely amazing. And it was huge, and there was not many people there. It wasn't busy at that time. I may put some photos in the background of what it was like when I first got in, and what it was like at the top of the stadium, because that's where our tickets were. We were sat right at the top, the second from the back row, and the back row was not all the way around because of the stairs at the top, so you can imagine how far back we were. And I wasn't disappointed, but I wasn't as happy as I was going into the stadium, purely because it wasn't as it lost a little bit of the experience because we were going to be so far up. So we went to get into our seats, and we were looking for our seat numbers. I think they were 259, 257, 258 and 259. So I had my ticket, which was 257. Oh no, it was 547, something like that. Yeah, it was sort of 3 seats sat together. So it was 547. I went and sat down in my seat. My parents were following me back up the stairs, and I said these are really high up. And my dad said, never mind, at least we're here. And we looked around for our seats, looked next to us, and either side, well, to the side of me was a small stairway leading up to just the final row 75. And then there was sort of seats next to it, which were 551, which we weren't meant to be in. It was 547, 548, 549. To the other side of me was 546, and there was no 548 or 549. So one of the stewards sort of came up to us because he saw we were having a problem getting our seats, and he went, "Oh, do you want some help finding your seats?" And I just said, "Our seats don't exist." And he said, "Oh, just sit down and just sort of accept that, and if anybody comes you may have to move." But and we was actually looking, my dad said this, he said, "I'm not happy with that, I'm going to go down to one of the more, like, the senior stewards, I think you could call them, I think in travel ambassador or whatever it's called, they were in the park." So I went down to them, they told us to just take a seat while they sorted it out, and we waited there for around 15 minutes. I had like rented a lens for my camera, so I was traipsing quite a big camera around with me, which I didn't want to be doing. It was relatively lucky I got that lens seeing as though we were sat at the top. I was a little bit disappointed with our seats, and I thought honestly we weren't going to get seats seeing as though we only had one of them. But they came back, and it was a different guy that came back who was like the Olympic Park coordinator, something like that, or Olympic Stadium coordinator, I think it was. And he came back with 3 different tickets. They were a different colour and whatever, and he just went, "Right, your seats are over there, go and look for them." We were in a completely different gate. We had to go further around the stadium, because initially we were at one end of the stadium, and then they moved us round to another end, and we got better seats. We got seats on the second tier, which wasn't too far up because the first tier was very small, because that was where the coaches were sat and people that paid a lot of money for their seats. And then the next tier was where we were sat. We were sat on the second row back on the first tier, and the seats were amazing because we were at the end where all the action was going on. We were at the end where all the I think they're called field events, where not the javelin, the shot put and the pole events. I'm guessing they're field events. They're not track events, but they were on like the side of the track, and we were right next to them, so we got some really great seats. And it was only now that I found out that we actually got put into seats that were worth £455 each, and we paid less than that for all of our tickets. So we got extremely lucky with our tickets. And the events we were seeing, I'm going to put some pictures in the background. We saw women's 800 metres, decathlon, most of the decathlon events, like the 100 metres, the long jump, the shot put, and we also saw Mo Farah run in the 5,000 metres. He came third, I think he came third? No, second or third. Yeah, most people expect him to win, but it was only his sort of round one heat to get him through to the semi-finals. So we weren't too disappointed with that, but we actually got to see Mo Farah, which was something that I was extremely excited about, because obviously he's one of Britain's greatest athletes, and that was the highlight of the day pretty much. So as we came out of the Olympic Stadium after it had finished, we were met by a huge crowd of people, because the Olympic Park had then filled up for the people that were coming in the afternoon and the evening that wanted to get there early to have a look round, and for the people that were there for the afternoon session. So the people that were there for that day, morning, afternoon and evening, were all in there at the same time. That was like the busiest time, and it was so busy. And yeah, it was just, like I said earlier, it was just a sea of heads bobbing up and down, which was, it was that busy. And we queued for the Superstore, which is like, imagine like Tesco's but in the London park, selling all the merchandise. We queued there for around 45, no, it wasn't even 45 minutes, about half an hour. It took us to go in, and you can imagine the amount of people that were trying to get in there. So the queues were managed really well, and it wasn't too busy. So we went around the park, tried to get into what's called the View Park, I think it's called, where you can just watch on the big screens what's going on around during the Olympics, if you didn't have tickets for anything else, because we didn't have anything for that day apart from in the evening, which I'll get to in a second. So we tried to get in there. That was full though, so they sent us round the other side because it was so big. And we managed to get in there. We managed to just sit on the hill, because it was just a grass area that you could just go and sit on. It was almost like people were like a picnic area, if you like. So that doesn't sound weird. People were just sat there watching the big screens, watching the Olympics. So that's what we did for a few hours. And we looked around the Olympic Park, to the velodrome, to the basketball arena, the Copper Box, which was where the handball was held initially until it was moved into the basketball arena. And we went all around the park, and it was really, really nice. It was really well done. It was really big. It really was perfect. There wasn't anything wrong with it. There was enough facilities for everybody. There was enough eating places and whatever. And the queues weren't long. They were long, but they were managed well in terms of it didn't take you long to get to the front and get served. So you weren't waiting sort of 2 hours to get any food, so you wouldn't miss an event. So after that, in the evening time, we had tickets to the Orbit statue, which, if you're not sure what that is, I'll just leave a picture on the screen now. It's the statue thing outside of the stadium, like the piece of architecture, and you could go to the top of it and get some great views around London. So I'm going to put some pictures in the background once again, and I'll just end this part as part one here, because I'm getting quite long. I didn't realise how long the commentary had gone on for. So I'll talk about the evening session in just the next episode, which will be part 2, which I'll be uploading tomorrow, and that'll also contain what I do on the next day. So as always, guys, likes and favourites and comments are always appreciated, and if you want to share this on Facebook or Twitter, I would also love you too. Thank you very much for watching, guys. I'll see you later.